Let's take a look inside. Can you take your hat off, please, and turn sideways?
My name is Charlie White III, and I'm an illustrator artist, and I have been working since 1964, before you guys were born. And I became a painter and a designer later on. I was always a drawer as a kid, and my parents they weren't, at that time, I would say artistic. I didn't know who anybody was. I just had a natural love for it. And all through grammar school, I was the guy that did all the murals in the class, and you know, I got away with murder. The kids are doing English, and I'd be up there doing some chalk drawing of the jungles of South America or something all semester. So I had a ball, and I got through high school and grammar school my art. So I had no choice. I had to do the art thing because that's all I could do. You know, that's all I really wanted to do. And then I went through Art Center College of Design in LA here. And then I just got out of school and never had a job, just started hawking my wares. And I would continually change my approach, which was good news, bad news. So the airbrush thing was the longest journey I had in one area. But I did watercolors and every technique you can think of before that. And it was just kind of an evolution. I was very fortunate, right out of school, getting some projects and some work with friends, basically, that were art directors at the time. And I was in LA at that moment, and I was able to get these amazing, amazing projects. And the way it worked then is I could almost do anything I wanted to do through the project. It was not really dictated what I had to do. So I was very lucky in being able to be adventuresome very early on. I was driving along with a friend, and I saw a billboard that had like 4 stripes on it, and they're called progression boards. And I thought it'd be really terrific. I said, why don't we have our own billboard? It'd be really cool. So I got back to the studio and called the billboard company up, and said, you can't buy one, you gotta buy 5. So I worked out a deal, and so I put up 5 billboards, okay? So what are you gonna do with them? So I had a photograph of me, those 4 photographs for $1 in the photo booth. So I had a white t-shirt on, put that on the top, and I said, Charles E. White III rules the world at the bottom. And I had them on La Cienega and Sunset Boulevard and around. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what my thought pattern was, but it was something you could do. You know, it was something that, you know, that I had, you know, the chutzpah to put out there. It didn't mean anything. People thought it meant something, like, oh, that guy's really cocky or this and that, but it was a photograph. If you'd seen the photograph, you wouldn't really think so. But it didn't say what I did, didn't have a phone number, it just had a statement on it. And it set an attitude for me for the rest of my career of that kind of thinking. So you think outside the box, nothing is stock, it's always an adventure. So that's the kind of thing that one could do at that time. It was about 66, 67 era. So it kind of set a tone for being a smarty pants. And so after that, I moved to New York City and I started a career and then folded into doing airbrush work, which I became known for. I didn't ever intend to be an airbrush illustrator. As I got into it deeper and deeper, however, what it did, it changed my image. I call image bank quite a bit. I saw things differently because I had a different mode to be able to paint them. And I was known for doing chrome or metallic imagery. So the device, by doing spraying the painting, was a way to do that easier than, say, doing it by oil or by other media. And I would have probably never have done that kind of, this kind of imagery if I hadn't done airbrush. And it's very tedious, very complicated, and at the time, not respected. Especially in New York, it was not respected at all as a technique. It was sort of like a cheap shot. People looked down on it for quite a long time. Out here was a lot more people doing it than in New York, as I recall. And I was back there, I was always a California artist in New York City for 10 years. I was never a New York artist. At least I never felt like part of the gang when I was in New York.
Okay, it looks like about 70% of your brain, this whole region here, is concerned pretty much exclusively with sex. You're using about 20% of what remains on your desire for power and money. This small section here is used to deal with bodily functions and also manage your affairs.
Haight-Ashbury was starting to happen, big time. And so all that psychedelic work, and it was the drugs started happening, the rock and roll. Rock and roll was a big driver of it, of the way pop art was getting really popular. So the compilation of all that, and then a few years later, after the late 60s, the album graphics took off and it just changed everything. Because it became the most creative, probably graphically, that I can remember. Because A, the format was really good. You got a 12 by 12 inch little poster there to do. And the more bands and the more experimental, and so there was a lot of experimenting going on at that time with the graphics. It was that moment in time. I think maybe, I don't know how many years I could say, it was probably lasted pretty much up until the CD world came into existence. That was changed it again to a different kind of deal. I think that the album cover graphics, because even the painters got involved in some of that world, that changed the whole dynamics. I think clothing and rock and roll alongside of that. Because I was very involved, and everybody, my friends were, the music was a very important part of your existence. You know, because you're working basically 24/7, and so music kind of help you keep going. And I always want to take something that you knew, recognized, but show it to you in a way you've maybe never seen before. But it's I was never very good at the real weird or abstract thing, but I had a lot of fun taking something that was like benign and like almost a little bit disgusting and show it to you that way. One of my favorite paintings was called The Sistine Chapel Floor for National Lampoon. And nobody's ever seen a floor. I'd never seen a floor. So I had to make a floor up, and I put a pizza rind on there and cigarette butts and a part of a Polaroid, etc. And I made something out of it. But you look at the floor as a double-page painting in a magazine. It was pretty cool.
Welcome to Swan Design. This is where it all happens. It's Lance, this is Hicks. Come back here, I want to show you where I work.
Well, Roman's a friend, and Roman had bought several pieces of mine from that period. And he loved that period. He loves the 70s art, and he always has. He's got quite a collection of that world. And so when he approached me on it, and I was hoping to work on it with him because I was my era. So I never thought it would be made, to be honest with you. I don't think he did either. And I got a call two years later from him saying, we're going to do it. It was interesting for me because of the young people that were doing it were the art directors and production designers were in their 20s, right? They had never seen this stuff. They didn't know how it was done because they're familiar with the digital world. So when they said it was done by hand, by actually physically doing it, was pretty intriguing to tell these kids that I did all these paintings here without touching the board, except for the pencil cleanup, but you paid the whole thing and you were about that far away from half inch from the board doing the whole painting.
Wow. I'd like to thank the Academy of Sexy Women for honoring me with this award.
I was a lot better looking than he was at the time. The similarities are probably attitude, you know, it was cockiness, but insecurity and fantasy. We're always living in fantasies. I mean, I got that down pretty good. But that was about it. It was more of a love story between a girl because that was appropriate, the amount of connection to have in the film. It was not about me, it was about the story. And we were just kind of the background guys of the feeling of the story.
Swan, I ran your numbers again, and things are not as dire as I originally thought.
So there's hope for me?
There's always hope.
It's not work to me. you know, this is not work. This is like my play. And when I get down here, I just had a best time coming to a weekend and just working. And to my wife's dismay, she gets very, very, said, Charlie, come on, just get a break here, you know. But I'm just driven that way. I always have been.